DC Comics absolutely owned New York Comic Con 2024. No doubt about it. They had a lot of news come out there. The official announcement of Jim Lee. But there are a few other things that need to be talked about. I've got 3 news stories that occurred. One of them, the return of a beloved imprint at DC Comics, a sequel to a series that people seem to like a lot more than me, and then another series that really feels like it's come out of nowhere. Let's get right to it. DC Comics announced the long-awaited return of their creator-owned comic label Vertigo, this time set to be called DC Vertigo. The imprint was previously home to some of DC's biggest comic titles of all time, including the likes of Sandman, Preacher, Y the Last Man, and Fables, and has been dormant since January of 2020. DC Comics also confirmed the first title that will kick off the DC Vertigo imprint, and it's one that is already being published, The Nice House by the Sea by James Tynion and Alvaro Martinez Bueno. So this will be the second time in the 2020s that DC Comics have tried to relaunch the magic that is Vertigo, one of the greatest things DC definitely ever gave the world outside of like Batman and Superman. Love Vertigo comic books, and there are so many amazing things that have been done in the past. Me personally, I think the greatest DC comic series ever created is Saga of the Swamp Thing, which was also retroactively converted into a Vertigo title, obviously from Alan Moore and Stephen Bissett. Just amazing stuff there, and there's certainly an enormous legacy with the Vertigo imprint. Of course, they messed it up last time. If you remember what Andy Corey and company were able to do to the last Vertigo relaunch, he basically killed it in about 3 or 4 months. Hopefully this goes a little bit smoother. And I do wonder whether there's an enormous need for DC Vertigo, because this is what it's going to be now. We're going to have DC, all in, the whatever the regular Prime universe is. We're going to have Absolute Universe, which is more insane takes on DC characters. We're going to have Elseworlds, which are kind of also going to be more insane takes on characters. We're still going to have Black Label. What the hell is that even now? And I guess DC Vertigo will now be the house of creator-owned stuff that normally would have been on Black Label as it is, but they're going to keep Black Label. It doesn't feel like you need one or the other. You definitely don't need both. And it does seem like they have a lot of very, very redundant imprints at this point. Like there's no need to have all of these that kind of all mean the exact same thing. Another very interesting thing about this. Now, the reason that DC Vertigo ended up failing the first time and didn't really work, and certainly didn't work on the relaunch, certainly Karen Berger leaving and losing the magic of what she was able to bring to Vertigo is a big reason for that. But the industry changed. There came a point, at the beginning, DC Vertigo, if you were making creator-owned books, with the Vertigo imprint, you got to keep, ownership of the property. And then when they saw what Neil Gaiman was ultimately able to do with Sandman in the Sandman universe, expanding it out to other mediums, getting streaming shows and stuff like that, and the fact that he was making money off of Sandman without DC Comics and Warner Brothers, were like, a cut of that is supposed to be ours. And they changed their game. And now when you do your creator-owned work on Vertigo, you don't keep the majority of ownership rights to it. Why would anyone go to Vertigo to release a book if they thought it was good when you could go to, Image Comics that are going to let you keep ownership of your property, and potentially, if it goes out into streaming and all that kind of stuff, make you a lot of money, a la what happened with Mark Millar, which certainly wasn't a part of Vertigo and all that kind of stuff, but there's no way Mark Millar would have ever gone on board for this stuff. So unless they've changed the circumstances of what it means to be a Vertigo creator and what it means to be a creator-owned, person at DC Comics and what your, ownership rights are to the properties, why would anyone want to go to DC Comics and give them a good idea with an original character that DC doesn't already own? Like, they should be having to pay out the ass for good ideas and concepts from a creator like a James Tynion. Now, obviously, James Tynion already has a relationship with DC, and they've already done Nice House by the Lake and Nice House by the Sea, as the sequel to that. And I believe Nice House by the Lake will also be, like, retroactively a Vertigo title or whatever. But they're never going to get good creators with good ideas until they change up the dynamics of the relationship, the business relationship there. And that's really what killed it the very first time. What killed it the second time, beyond the fact that it's hard to get good creators if you're going to own their creator-owned stuff, is that they had a moron in the name of Andy Corey in charge of that. How are they going to do this time? They found Maybe not quite the same level of moron, but he's pretty damn close. His name is Chris Conroy, and this is what he put out on social media. DC Black Label continues with some red hot stories from DC superhero characters still on the way for years to come. Vertigo puts us back into the creator-owned business in a very big way. Yes, I'm running both. No, I haven't lost your mind. I don't believe you have lost your mind, Chris Conroy, but I do believe Marie Javins and Jim Lee and DC Comics have lost their mind. If you want to go see somebody that is wholly unprepared, not just to work in the comic book industry, but to live as a functioning adult, go look at Chris Conroy's fucking social media. The guy is a absolute fucking train wreck. He's a moron, and he is a stain and a blight on the reputation of DC Comics. And them continuing to hire the guy and now promote him to being in charge of 2 separate imprints is just absolutely ludicrous. It's absolutely stupid. So they have put another moron in charge of this. This is how dumb Chris Conroy is. I won't give out all the details, but I know for certain there are at least 2 major DC creators that when they were signing their contract, they said, oh, I'll do the book as long as I never, ever have to work with Chris Conroy. He cannot edit my book. He cannot be the group editor. He could never look at anything I submit because I don't want to work with the guy. And that's 2 instances that I know of behind the scenes. How many other people out there have a shred of common sense and are like, yeah, I don't want to work with this guy? So it's not like he has a very good reputation. Now, I'm sure if you're not a good writer and you want an editor that's not professional and doesn't demand the best output, you probably love working for an idiot like Chris Conroy. So I will not be surprised if they get their hands on a gaggle of fucking morons that couldn't write their way out of a paper bag because they put that shithead in charge of that. So that is a return of Vertigo Comics. I'm all for it. I love Vertigo. I don't have big expectations for it. I think the best of Vertigo is well behind us. I don't think we'll ever get anything as good, as Animal Man and Doom Patrol and Why the Last Man and Preacher and fucking Song of the Swamp Thing and certainly Sandman and all that stuff that made Vertigo what it is. There'll probably be a decent title or 2 in there, despite Chris Conroy and his dumbassery. Let's put it that way. Another thing they announced at New York Comic Con, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong is coming back for a sequel, and the follow-up is promising even more characters, and Kaiju will be wrapped up in the clash between superheroes and supervillains and giant monsters. The sequel will bring back the creative team behind the first series, Brian Buccellato, artist Kristen Duce, and rather than Godzilla and Kong making their way into the DC universe as seen in the first series, DC's heroes and villains will be heading into the Monsterverse this time around instead. I know the first issue sold really well, and I even think the second one did. But I read Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong the first go around, and it wasn't very good. As far as I'm concerned, I thought it was way below standard for something that's supposed to be just, mindless fun. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. It doesn't feel like that should be very hard to pull off. It's mindless popcorn humor, which I'm all for stuff like that. I like dumbass comic books, and I can definitely get in there for it. But Brian really tried to sell this as something being more than that, and I think he kind of didn't really deliver on the promise of what Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong could be. So I'm fully out on the sequel. It's not important. It's not in continuity. Who gives a shit? And then them going to the Monsterverse this time rather than them coming to the DC universe. The exact same circumstances that they did with TMNT Batman crossover. The first volume, TMNT came into the DC universe. The second volume, Batman and the Bat Family went to the TMNT universe. And then that one wasn't very good. And then they finally kind of brought it all back home with multiverse and stuff like that, which were more fun. I imagine we'll see a third volume of this that will be dealing with multiverses or something stupid like that. But I just was not a very big fan of the original. If you liked it and you thought it was badass, then you got some good news because they're coming back and they're delivering more. Definitely does not give me a comic book stiffy or really move the needle for me whatsoever. Kind of business as usual. Another series that doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things. Hopefully there's going to be some really good stuff from DC coming out in the near future. Sounds like things have gotten a little bit better as of late. The final big announcement, or I guess smaller announcement, because I am consolidating all these to one video because these weren't the biggest announcements out there. DC officially announced Justice League: The Atom Project, a new comic from writers John Riley and Ryan Parrott and artist Mike Perkins. As the clever subtitle suggests, The Atom Project will center on both sides-changing superheroes Ray Palmer and Ryan Choi, the Atom, as well as atomic superhero Nathaniel Atom, Captain Atom. The trio of characters will be joined in an effort to help DC's various superpowered beings regain their proper powers after things were scrambled by the destruction of the Amazos at the end of the recent event series Absolute Power. So I would totally be on board, even if I think the concept itself isn't strong, and I'll get to that here in a second, for like Ryan Parrott and Mike Perkins on Justice League, the Atom Project. That's a really good pairing. I like Mike Perkins' art a lot. You know, it doesn't fit everything, but he's got a really unique style that I personally really dig. I think he's got some real chops. And Ryan Parrott is a comic book writer on the rise. He's somebody that should be getting some chances at Marvel and DC, and finally he is. You know, kind of cut his teeth out on the indie scene, really started to develop his reputation on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but he's also in the Massiveverse with Rogue Sun. He's done plenty of TMNT Power Rangers crossovers, and I think there's even a couple of other crossovers out there when it comes to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers that have been successful and people really enjoyed, and I think Ryan Parrott is really, really talented. Why the fuck is John Ridley on the book? Ryan Parrott doesn't need John Ridley. John Ridley is a fucking cyst on the bunghole of fucking comic books. Why can't we get this thing to go away? This dude has legitimately never written a good comic book series in his entire fucking life. And he's been writing comic books for like 30 fucking years now. I understand he did 12 Years a Slave. I understand, you know, he's an Academy Award winning screenwriter or anything like that. But he ain't an Eisner Award winning fucking comic book creator because he can't fucking write. He got that stupid I Am Batman series, suck balls. He got to do, was it Black Panther? Suck more balls. He did the other History of the DC Universe, suck super duper balls. He was doing short stories in Superman Blue and Red, triple suck balls. And he also did The Authority back in the day that made people question whether or not they should continue on with the fucking team. That's how bad John Ridley is in comic books. He sucks ass. Why is he on this fucking book? He is a detriment to this. This should be an opportunity for people to discover Ryan Parrott along with an artist that they know and like and respect in Mike Perkins. And this should be his chance to make a name at DC Comics. Destroy John Ridley on the fucking title. No bueno, not going to buy it, would never read it. Just because of his name there. And then the fact that this is Justice League, the Atom Project. There are so many of these stupid fucking books. Now that every single member of the DC universe is in the Justice League, you're getting all these stupid spinoff titles, and the concepts suck. I don't want to read about Black Lightning being the welcoming committee for fucking superheroes as they enter the DC universe. I want to see Black Lightning being a man of the streets, kicking ass and taking names. Subjugating him to that is fucking disrespectful to the character. And then putting, you know, the two versions of the Atom as well as Captain Atom on a team that will help newly discovered superheroes that generated powers because of absolute power or whatever. How are they going to handle it? Like, who gives a flying fuck? That is not interesting. This is a stupid concept. I would check it out because it had a good creator, but you've got a terrible creator on it. And a lot of these stupid fucking ancillary titles to Justice League Unlimited suck ass. They're not anything. There's nothing there to explore. And if anything, that's detrimental to established heroes that you're putting not in these secondary roles. These are more like tertiary fucking roles to where they're not even heroes. They're just out there doing the leftover chores of the Justice League that they don't want to do. Like, I don't like washing the dishes. Normally I would make my kid do it. They're like, nah, fuck it. Make Captain Atom do it. He sucks anyway. And it does feel like they're really tarnishing a lot of these heroes that they're putting in these bad positions. So there you go. I'm not exactly swayed by any of these things. I'm excited for more Vertigo. Hopefully there'll be a couple of cool titles in there. I do like weird concepts and stuff like that, and Vertigo was certainly the place for that for a long time. I did not care for Justice League Godzilla Kong. I don't care about a sequel. And I would be in there for the Atom Project, despite a concept that I don't really like, but you threw John Ridley in there, and that is the nugget of shit that you throw into the recipe that makes it unfucking edible. Like, you don't even want to try it because you can just smell it. The smell of John Ridley and his stench is all over it. Now, if you'd like a reminder of what happened to Vertigo under the watchful eye of Andy Coury and why they're having to relaunch it now, I actually made a video about this. It's absolutely fantastic. If you haven't checked this one out, you can see how much better I am now than I used to be And I wasn't bad then either.